Back in 2006, you got to go all the way back to 2006, if you remember, the scuttlebutt behind what was known as the Dubai Ports deal during President Bush's tenure. It ended up falling apart. It was described as falling apart because the company seeking to manage terminal operations at 6 American ports dropped out of that deal, bowing to what the Times said was unrelenting bipartisan attacks in Congress that swept aside President Bush's efforts. So, remember what that was and remember what it was all about? If you don't, there's a gentleman that does, and he has similar concerns about something going on just down the road in neighboring Wilmington. The Wilmington port is now looking to, well, I guess for want of a better term, there's a full-blown management takeover there as of the end of this week. If the legislature of Delaware moves forward with the plan. Frank Gaffney, our friend from the Center for Security Policy at centerforsecuritypolicy.org. He's a national security expert. He joins us again on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT. He's on the Spring Dance Hot Tubs call-in line. Frank, good morning to you, sir. Hi.
Good morning, Chris.
Well,
good to be back with you. I
think people just have to kind of, this is a complex and convoluted situation and story with a complex history. So can you give us the 30,000-foot view of what that was then, what this is now, and why we as average Americans should be concerned?
Sure. Well, I would just clarify one thing. The deal in 2006 didn't fall apart. It was stopped. And it was stopped by members of Congress and both sides of the aisle, as you've indicated, but also by an outcry from the American people over the inadvisability, the obvious lunacy of having a foreign company, notably from the Middle East of all places, running shipping container operations in American ports. Because, as you know, I'm sure, an immense number of these things come into our country every day, and they are almost never inspected. We have no idea what people are bringing in, and the possibility that you could have people who have malevolent intentions facilitating the movement of these things is especially worrying. So that deal was stopped.
And may I ask, Frank,
Ports World deal.
Just for historical context, George Bush was, people can criticize him for a lot, but I don't think anybody could criticize his commitment to security and being tough on, certainly terrorist sympathizers or anybody that he felt would give safe haven to Al-Qaeda or terrorism at that time. So it seemed a strange thing for the Bush administration to be championing, and I'm trying to remember exactly why they were.
I think the reason was that the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, was considered to be one of the friendly Middle Eastern nations, an ally, and the administration, I think, thought that this would be a good business transaction, and typically that's the way these things are viewed. National security considerations, if they're thought about at all, are very much an afterthought, and that's one of the problems of the current controversy, by the way, is that this hasn't been subjected to any national security oversight at all. And when I say this, what I'm talking about is another company owned by another of the sheikhs out of the Middle East, a fellow by the name of the Emir of Sharjah, and the family of Saddam Hussein's nuclear bomb maker, who's a fellow by the name of Jafar Dia Jafar. And this joint venture, on the face of it, has some national security problems, don't you think? But in addition...
I'm sorry, Frank, I just want to, for people that are just tuning in, this is brand new news to a whole lot of people. Maybe have never heard this. What on earth would that outfit, these people, want with the Port of Wilmington? And who in Delaware says, well, sure, come on in and have at it? Is this another financial windfall to Delaware? Is that why they would enter into the deal? And what do these people want with it?
Well, the latter question can only be speculated about. I have the feeling that Jafar Dia Jafar, the guy who was the mastermind of Saddam's nuclear weapons program, by the way, was on a capture or kill list when we went into Iraq because he was considered to be such a dangerous individual. He may have getting even on his mind. I don't know, but I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. But for the Port of Wilmington, yes, this is a very seductive transaction. They're supposed to get something on the order of $589 million and a brand new container port facility that this company, Gulftainer, will manage for 50 years. And they'll bring in 5,000 new jobs, we're told. So this is all sweetness and light, unless somebody introduces the nasty little problem that maybe this is a national security nightmare. Then I had a conversation with a man who was involved as a senior figure in the Homeland Security Department's office up in New York City by the name of Dr. Joseph King the other day. And he is frantic about this transaction and what it portends because, unfortunately, this is not the first of these ports that this particular company has taken over. They're already running one in another strategic location in Florida, Port Canaveral. And this one was similarly not subjected to the kind of review, they call it the Committee on Foreign Investment in the United States, that is supposed to evaluate these sorts of national security potential problems. So
Frank, just so I can understand,
keep getting blown through.
Just so I can understand the governance of this. This is wholly and solely a transaction between the state of Delaware and this company Gulftainer. This has nothing to do with the feds at any level.
Well, I think the feds can at any point insert themselves into this, and certainly should, but they haven't to this point, and I think that that's primarily because it has not come to the attention of President Trump or his senior national security people. I think John Bolton coming in as national security advisor next Monday would almost certainly take a very dim view of this, and properly so. But in the absence of that, we've just seen this thing being treated as a local issue. And yes, on Friday morning, the Port of Delaware's board of directors is supposed to vote, and almost certainly, all other things being equal, will put at risk, let me be clear, this port and much of the surrounding area, I believe, to potential hazards introduced if bad actors take advantage of this situation through the Port of Wilmington. Let me just give you one other example, if I may, Chris, just if what I've said isn't troubling enough. Saddam Hussein's nuclear bomb maker, for heaven's sakes. This company, Gulftainer, also has a partnership with another company, a Russian company, as it happens, that has among its commercial offerings something called the Club K missile launcher. It is a 4-cruise missile launcher that can be concealed inside what appears to the outside world to be just an ordinary shipping container. Now, this, by the way, involves nuclear-capable cruise missiles, for heaven's sakes. And the idea that this is just being treated as another commercial transaction is insane.
So, Frank,
in my professional judgment.
In terms of this company, Gulftainer, they will be, I just kind of want to understand the fullness of it. They're operating out of the port, or they would, in essence, govern, dictate, oversee, whatever the term you want to use, the port?
Yeah. As I understand it, they would be getting the management contract for the Port of Wilmington. And this would include, of course, the new container facility that they would be building there. And it's a 50-year contract.
And that's
so,
strange.
That's a long time for people. Perhaps the current generation isn't so worrying, though I think Jafar Dia-Jafar certainly is. But what about the next one, or then one after that? So this is the sort of thing, I think, Chris, that just screams out for a pause. These guys at the Port of Wilmington Board of Directors should not vote to approve this tomorrow. It should be subjected to a close national security review before this transaction is allowed to go forward.
So I suppose the only way you could let your voice be heard if it's of concern is to lobby the Board of Directors there at the Port of Wilmington, is what you're saying.
Well, I think that's a good place to start. And as it happens, there's one individual on this board of directors that seems to me to be the obvious guy to get in touch with, and that is the Secretary of the Delaware Department of Public Safety and Homeland Security by the name of Robert Coupe, C-O-U-P-E. And his phone number is 302-744-2680. And for heaven's sakes, he ought to be alive to the public safety and homeland security threats that this arrangement could create.
Frank, thanks for bringing us up to speed on it. I must confess, it slipped past me. So when we heard about it and heard your concerns about it, we wanted to have you on to talk about it. So thank you very much.
So grateful you did. Thank you. Go forth.
That's Frank Gaffney there at the Center for Security Policy.